about before, we now have over 80% of the American people who believe we have a professional political class that cares more about its position and power and privilege than on getting anything done. I happen to agree with them. That's why I'm running for president. So people who believe we have a political class that's letting us down are open to candidates who aren't politicians. Donald Trump is certainly not a politician. We have a set of people who are very frustrated and very angry by all of these things that don't work. You know, we have been talking about securing our border for 25 years. It still isn't secure. People have a right to be frustrated by that. We talk about sanctuary cities. San Francisco has been a sanctuary city since 1989. So this has been going on for a long time, and people are angry and frustrated about it.
If he were to become the nominee of the GOP, would you endorse him?
Well, I've been public in saying that I will support whoever the nominee of the Republican Party is. I intend to be that nominee, but of course I will support the Republican nominee. I wish Donald Trump would say the same thing, but so far he has refused, and he has not ruled out a third-party bid. So honestly, it's not clear to me he's a Republican.
This is a hypothetical, but you're willing to do what a lot of candidates won't do and answer good hypotheticals. If he was the nominee and he asked you to be his vice president, would you run with him?
I don't know.
What would it depend upon?
I don't know. That's a theoretical that I'm not willing to speculate about. I'm not willing to speculate about being anyone's vice president, frankly.
All right. Now, earlier yesterday, Donald Trump was on O'Reilly with a critical exchange. Here's what was that exchange.
You say, well, we got to have mass deportations. That's not going to happen because the 14th Amendment says if you're born here, you're an American, and you can't kick Americans out.
Bill, I think you're wrong about the 14th Amendment, and frankly, the whole thing with anchor babies and the concept of anchor babies, I don't think you're right about that. There are many lawyers are saying that's not the way it is in terms of this.
What do you think of the debate about whether or not the 14th Amendment guarantees birthright citizenship, CARLY FIORINA?
Well, I think the 14th Amendment does. I think changing birthright citizenship would require another amendment to the Constitution. I don't think that is where our political energy should go. I think our political energy should be focused on securing the border. And in the end, securing the border is our job, not Mexico's job, not anybody else's job, our job. It is the basic responsibility of the federal government to secure its border in order to protect its sovereignty. And I also think it's interesting that 3 years ago, Donald Trump had a very different view. 3 years ago, Donald Trump was highly critical of Mitt Romney for suggesting that 11 million illegals should self-deport. So, look, there are aspects of what Donald Trump has said that I agree with. Yes, we need to secure our border. Yes, we need to make sure that sanctuary cities follow the law or their funding should be cut off. Yes, we should have an employer verification system that works and that is mandatory. And I've been saying those things for a very long time, as have many other candidates. But I think saying that the 14th Amendment won't hold up in court is, frankly, just a little silly.
Now, I've had on John Eastman, a great judicial scholar and a friend of mine, arguing the opposite point, and there are many others who will argue the opposite point. They're a distinct minority, but the conservative point of view is that that settled law that goes back 100-plus years should not be disturbed absent a constitutional amendment. I learned recently, and I did not know this, that you are the daughter of Judge Sneed, one of the great. I had no idea. I served with his colleagues George McKinnon and Roger Robb on the D.C. Circuit as their clerk, and Judge Sneed was a hero. So obviously you have a conservative judicial temperament, and if I ask you what kind of judges you would appoint, I imagine you would say judges like Judge Sneed.
That's correct. My dad was a great conservative jurist. I watched him on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, obviously one of the most liberal courts in the land, stick to his principles. He wrote many, many, many dissenting opinions and was very proud of the fact that when the Supreme Court reversed the Ninth Circuit, which happened frequently, that they would just as frequently cite his opinions. And so I've been asked a lot what kind of justices I would appoint to the Supreme Court, and the answer is men and women like my dad. And I also will say, Hugh, because you asked me, that it's hard to be a conservative jurist. Humility and restraint are required if you are a conservative. You have to be humble enough and restrained enough that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And in many cases, the humility and restraint to say, you know what, I may not like that the law is this way, but my job isn't to decide what the law should be. My job is to decide what the law is. I may wish the Constitution were different, but the Constitution is what it is, and our job is to honor and uphold the Constitution. That takes humility and restraint. And I do believe that as we think about the character of our leaders, whether they are presidents or secretaries of state or Supreme Court justices, we ought to be looking for truthfulness, of course, and capability certainly, and courage is important as well. But I think humility and restraint are undervalued virtues.
Now, columnist Holmes Jenkins at the Wall Street Journal has written about your...
I was gratified by it in many ways. You know, Holman Jenkins at the time of the merger was quite critical of the acquisition of Compaq. I obviously disagreed with his assessment, knowing the industry as I did and knowing our company as I did. And after all, it is a journalist's job to know the company or the industry as well as the chief executive must. But when he was critical of the Compaq move back when we were doing it, I disagreed with him. And so it was particularly heartening now to hear him say that one of a chief executive's job is to make the best choice they can given the circumstances in which they find themselves,
so I'm curious,
execute that choice.
With a minute left, so you are not afraid of scrutiny of your tenure at HP?
Not at all. In fact, just the opposite. I am proud to run on my record at HP. That doesn't mean that I didn't make mistakes, but the big things, transforming a company from a laggard to a leader, tripling innovation, doubling the size of the company, saving 80,000 jobs when some of our best competitors literally disappeared beneath the waves because they didn't make the tough choices, quadrupling the top line revenue growth rate. The only way you can save a job is to grow and lead, particularly in technology. And we did that, and I welcome the scrutiny. And by the way, the Democrats are attacking. They wish they could ignore me, but they can't ignore me anymore.